You know, when it comes to playing games, there's a lot of ways to play them. You can play games on, well, your normal consoles, like most people do. You can play games on a PC, where you've got far more customizability. You can change your PC itself or play almost any game on it. You can stream games live nowadays, so you don't even have to have a good console or setup to play good games. You can just have a PC, and as long as it has an internet connection, it can connect and stream games live to your screen. But of course, there's always the issue of, well, what if I want to play a game that's on a proprietary console on anything else? What if I do want to play the PAL version of Star Fox on my computer? Or what if I do want to play the worst Mario Kart ever portably? How am I supposed to do that when to run either of these, I need a console? Well, there's two ways you could do it. You go around the official way of getting Nintendo Switch and buying Switch Online. Or you could sail the high seas. Today, we're going to be talking not quite about that part, almost about that part. Emulation. Since the dawn of man, people have tried to find a way to get things for free. And since video games have existed, it's been no different. Video games have always been paid for, pretty much. You can't really get them for free. Someone's gotta make them and code them and everything, and they're gonna want to get paid for their work, unfortunately. So you can't just get a game for free. What you've got to do is you've got to spend money. But what if you could get them for free? Well, let's not quite talk about the piracy and the stealing quite yet. No, let's first talk about, well, how are you even gonna play a game? Because you can't just dump your own ROMs. If you get a ROM dumper, something you can stick a cartridge into or a disc into, and then you boot that up into your PC, you can rip the game files straight from your disc or cartridge onto a folder on your PC. And, well, you got the game now, just on your actual computer instead of on the game cartridge or disc. The only problem with this is how you're supposed to play it. I mean, like, last time I checked, this isn't an N64! Well, in order to play these wonderful games, you have to find an emulator. Emulators, they're pretty simple. You load them up onto a device that isn't the original console, and it'll play games if you put game files in of games from that original console. You get a Nintendo 64 emulator, and boom! Now you got Mario 64 on your computer. You load up your SNES emulator, and boom! There you go. You now got Earthbound on your phone. Load up your Wii emulator, you got Wii Sports on your alarm clock. It's amazing! However, the only problem with this is that, well, emulators can be a bit, how do I put this, sketchy. Emulators have come a long way, of course, since they were first created. Emulators originally were kind of a bit, Wow, I am actually playing Mario at 3 frames per second! Yeah, emulators never had the highest quality at the start. In order to play all these powerful games, you usually need the newest and best console to play them. The problem with that is that it took a little while for things like, well, personal computers and phones to catch up with the likes of consoles. Eventually, however, they would, and you can actually emulate quite a few games now. If you've got a normal computer, actually, a normal personal computer, you can emulate pretty much any game you want to. Normal computers can be as powerful as you want to, and you can keep upgrading them as computers keep getting upgraded and faster than consoles generally do. And because of that, you can pretty much emulate whatever you want on a computer as long as it's powerful enough. Phones can also do emulation as well, though not obviously, of course, to the same extent as a computer, but a phone is a nice little way to play Mario on the go, and especially if you're playing a lot of the handheld titles as well. Handheld titles, when they're emulated, can often be a bit weird when they're projected onto a larger screen. Well, obviously a handheld's supposed to be a smaller console, so it's supposed to originally be viewed on a smaller screen, so blowing up the game to make it look massive can make it look a bit weird. So playing the game on your phone can be a nice way to sort of experience it more as it was intended. Emulators have always been evolving, and nowadays, emulators are pretty damn good. You can emulate pretty much any console you want, and you're probably gonna get as good of an experience as if you were just playing on the console itself. Emulators also allow you to play games wherever you want, especially if you got something like a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally. Any of these handheld, portable computers allow you to basically play whatever you want on the go. Download your emulators, get a couple of ROMs on there, and boom, now you got Wii Sports at Starbucks. And while dumping your own ROMs is the way that you're officially supposed to use emulators, a lot of people don't use them for that. Emulators, of course, they can, well, play any game that you put into them for that console that is emulating. And while that could be used to dump your own ROMs and just play them wherever you want, most people, they use it to play other people's ROMs. The high seas. Sailing the seas and the waves of the internet and game piracy. Pirating games is, it's a pastime that a lot of people have come into. I mean, come on here. I'd never, of course, pirate a game. At the very least, I wouldn't admit to it. However, for a lot of people, they don't have a lot of money. Poor people exist, I'm sorry, it's a fact of life. What do you want me to do about it? And the fact that people don't necessarily have money to be blowing on games means that, well, internet piracy is always gonna exist. People are gonna have to get games at some point. They want something to just relax with, to chill down, to break down. And if they don't have a lot of money as well, they might really want something to relax with, especially if they can't afford it. And so, internet piracy is kind of the only way for them. I do feel bad, of course, you can't afford your games, so I understand wanting to just, well, get them a little bit illegally. And to be honest, with how easy it is to download games off the internet, I mean, can you really be surprised people do it? I've seen people do it and they aren't even trying to, like, pirate them because they don't have the money for the game. It's just convenient for them. I, again, will never admit to piracy. However, I will say that I do have my own ROMs. Where I got them from, you can just assume that it's from me. However, I've played my own ROMs, and realistically, even though I already own the game, I want the ROM anyways. Having the ROM means I can do more with the game. I can be just a little bit more customized with it. For example, Mario Kart Wii is one of the games that I play the most on an emulator. Emulated Mario Kart Wii, I mean, I own a Nintendo Wii. I could play it on the original hardware, and I occasionally do. However, if I emulate it, that means I can have it on my Steam Deck, meaning I can play wherever I want to play it. Playing Wii games or GameCube games wherever I want them, just when I want them, is a very useful thing to have. Instead of having to lug a GameCube around with its handle or put a Wii in a plastic carrier bag, I can just take my Steam Deck in its case and I can just play them right there and then. Being able to access games wherever I want to, however I want to, just there, is a very useful feature for me. And a lot of people also find this a useful feature considering that the Steam Deck is very good for emulation. A lot of other people also find this a good feature considering, I mean, why else would you buy a Steam Deck? For the actual Steam games? Listen, I know there's a lot of reasons to buy something like a Steam Deck, but let's be honest here. You're not buying a Steam Deck without at least considering the possibility of emulating some games. That's one of the whole purposes you buy one. Of course, you got your Steam games on there, but the fact you can emulate games is always going to be some amount of a factor in buying something like that. And so emulation really is quite useful when it comes to the ideas of, you know, wanting to have a game portably or something. However, a lot of people don't think emulation is necessarily, ethical. Yes, the philosophy of emulation. Emulation itself is not always the most ethical thing to do. A lot of people believe that it counts as a full-on form of stealing and no one should ever do it. Other people believe that, well, emulation's okay, you can do it sometimes if you really want to. And other people believe that, well, everyone should be emulating and it is your God-given right as an American or as a Brit or a Frenchman or from wherever you are in order to play whatever games you want, whenever you want, for the price you want. My personal opinion? I think that emulating games is completely fine. I see no problem with it. However, I mean, I do get why people would get a little bit upset if you're emulating games, especially ones like indie games. Indie developers are already starving because, well, I mean, they're indie developers. And so, pirating games from them really doesn't do them any favors. Pirating a single game from something like Nintendo, you know, they're a giant corporation. They probably don't care. They wouldn't even notice. Pirating a random game from a random indie developer that can barely afford to feed himself, a little bit more dubious there. And again, of course, emulation and piracy are two different things. You can emulate without pirating, of course, and you can technically pirate emulating, though there's not much point in doing the second one. However, they do often go hand in hand. When I say emulation, what the hell else are you gonna think about? Your grandmother's cookies? No, you're gonna think about piracy. Piracy just kind of goes with emulation, and there's not really much you can do about that. Being able to play whatever a certain console can play on any other device, and then being able to get games for that console for free, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Of course, you're gonna want to try and get some of those games for free. I think most people would do it if they are emulating. Anyone who's ever emulated probably does pirate games, to be honest. And again, I'm not admitting to anything. What I am saying, though, is that most people probably do if they are emulating. Emulators and game piracy also have the other side effect of, well, game preservation. Big companies will often want to save money where they can, and that includes sometimes taking games off the shelves. If they can't afford to sell a game or it's more profitable to keep it off the shelves, they're probably gonna do that. I mean, the point of a company is to make money, and so, well, if there's a way they're gonna be able to make money that's more efficient than their current way, they're probably gonna do it that way. And this, while is understandable for the companies, kinda makes it a bit of a pain in the ass for the everyone else. Because the everyone else might want to play a game. Because the everyone else might want to play that one random game that the company took down for no reason. I mean, come on, what if I still want to play Ice Age 3 Dawn of the Dinosaurs for Nintendo Wii? If the game's no longer being sold by the company in any sort of capacity, is it even really stealing at that point? I mean, it's not like the company themselves are losing money. If the only way to buy the game officially is off Facebook Marketplace or eBay, then is it really stealing to pirate it? You're not really taking anything from anyone, and it's not like the game itself is going to lose its value for people who do want to sell them and make money off of their collections, because people want to have the physical, actual thing. The emulated thing is kind of just anyone can get that. The physical copy, there's only so many of those. And so, there's not really much against saying that you shouldn't be able to pirate and emulate games, especially if they're not being sold anymore actively. If Nintendo is no longer selling a random game on the NES, and they don't care to sell it ever again, is it really my fault for wanting to pirate that game if I want to play it? If they're no longer selling it, they're not losing money on it. I don't see the problem with pirating games that aren't being sold anymore, to be honest. I mean, hell, the current owner and CEO of Valve even said this himself with that one quote, where he said that piracy is more of a service issue rather than a pricing issue. The point of that message is basically to say that if a modern company wanted to stop piracy, especially if they're older games, they could just put them back up for sale, and a lot of people would just buy them officially rather than pirate them, because, well, if they're not being serviced, you gotta get them a different way, and piracy is often that way. However, often companies don't really view it this way. They view it as, they're taking money directly from our pockets, we gotta stop them. And so there's often the common takedown of emulation sites and piracy sites all over the place. Emulation sites and piracy sites get consistently taken down and stricken down all the time. The only problem is that you can't really stop something. Once it's on the internet, it's out of your hands already. Any emulator can always be re-downloaded because there's always going to be someone else with the file. And any ROMs are also going to be re-uploaded just in a different site somewhere else. You can never get rid of all of them. It's an impossible task. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. You get one of them, you got 10 more that pop up. And to these companies' credits, it's not for a lack of effort for them. These companies have often really tried to take down emulation and piracy as much as they can, but the internet just works faster than these guys' lawyers can. Listen, Nintendo's lawyers are some of the most brutal lawyers on the planet, but Little Timmy's upload speed is just too fast for them. You can upload like 1 million ROMs to 1 million different websites nowadays in like upwards of 5 minutes, and well, there's nothing Nintendo can really do about that. So emulation and piracy are most likely here to stay. There's nothing that can really be done against them, to be honest. You can never actually fully remove them because they're on the internet, so they're just gonna stay around, really. So emulation and piracy and all of that, well, what I think of it. I think, personally, that if you want to emulate your games, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to pirate your games, that's perfectly fine, too. Hell, even for indie games, as much as I would discourage you from doing that, and to really try and support the game creator themselves, I do understand the situation of not having money. At the very least, if you are going to pirate something like an indie game, do give some amount of credit to the creator. Go on Twitter or something and go post about it. Go say, hey, I bought this game, you should play it as well. Something to help the creator out. These guys, they're the little guys, go help them out. Big corporations like Nintendo don't really need your help, especially if they're not selling the game anyways. They're not needing your help for advertising there, you're not even stealing from them or anything. But a random indie developer that's struggling to feed himself, go and throw him a bone, a sliver of meat. Go and shout him out on your Twitter or YouTube or whatever. Go give him a little bit of exposure. But that's pretty much Emulation and Piracy, so I guess the only thing left now is final verdict. Oh, Ice Age 3 Dawn of the Dinosaurs for Nintendo Wii isn't all that bad. I mean, look, it has... It is...